Hey, this is Patricia. I have a layout to share with you that is using pattern paper, cardstock, some vellum, some gesso, and gelatos. And this is how I got started. I picked out the photo that I wanted. I decided to change it to black and white since there's so much color in the photo. And then I picked out some very vibrant dark pattern papers with nice backsides to them. And then I picked those complementary gelato colors that would really go well with the pattern papers. Now I have a plain piece of cardstock and I'm going to layer these pattern papers and trim them all together. And then I'm going to start laying them out on the plain cardstock and adhere them into place. And now I'll go ahead and trim a little piece of vellum, actually a few pieces of vellum. I like the look of the vellum with the gesso. I like the way it curls. So here I have stitched everything into place. It was adhered first, and then I stitched everything into place with straight stitching and some zigzag stitching here and there. I used white thread, but you could use some colored thread if you would like. I want this to be neutral, and I want to just create lots of layers. So now I use an old credit card and just a little bit of gesso at a time to get the desired look that I want. I want the pattern papers to show through a little bit, and I have to say I am partial to that far left pattern paper with the pink flowers, so we'll apply a little less gesso to that one. Once this is dry, and I did use my heat gun to speed up the drying process a little bit, you want to start ripping your pattern paper and your vellum. And what's nice is it will tear along some of the stitched lines, so it'll leave your pattern paper in place. Just gives it a nice ripped look, which again gives the look of the texture that we want here. So just keep ripping. I actually ripped a little bit of my white cardstock, which is fine because it really does have a nice look. I like that big piece of vellum that's flapped there. I'm not sure if I'll use it, but I'm going to leave that one as is. Now apply a little bit more gesso to this, and it creates a nice canvas for my gelatos. But before I do that, I want to add some stamping. I picked out the phrase recorded, and I'm just repeating that stamp across this background. Because I will be using water with the gelatos, I want to heat set that ink that I stamped with just to make sure that it doesn't smear too much. It's okay if it does, but I really do want to see the image, the recorded stamped image as is. So now I'm going to start applying some of the gelatos. I start with the gray. Gray is like one of those colors that I'm really loving. I can't get enough of the gray. So I apply it lightly at first, take my cup of water and my brush and spread that around. The gesso really helps it to spread well. Now you could see that I got heavier with the gray. So you start off light with the gelatos. You could also use your watercolors or paints. Start off with a lighter, little less color, and then start to go a little bit darker. Now as I add the pink, I add it in straight lines. So it just kind of starts to create a pattern on top of the pattern that I already have underneath. So once that's dry, again, I used my heat gun to just speed it up a little bit more. I now apply the green color in little circles. And once you use your water and your brush, you can make those circles as big or as little as you want. I tend to go with circles a lot, but you could also draw the plus signs that are so popular. So you just continue to do that. Let that dry really well. And then now I want to get started on my layout. I pick out another plain white cardstock for the background. I had an idea to have my photo at the upper left corner, but my title that I selected is Connected By. When I looked at the photo is actually my sister-in-law's birthday that we just celebrated. But she's surrounded by all of her nieces and nephew. And there's a lot behind this photo. There's a story behind the photo. So it really made me think how connected we are. My niece and nephew were foster kids that were adopted. My daughter was adopted from China. So there's a lot of backstory to all of this. And that's why the Connected By really just clicked for me for this photo. and then I can add my journaling to go along with that title. But now I want to go ahead and use that background that I created. So I'm going to start cutting, and I had to use that piece of pattern paper. I just love those flowers and the leaves peeking through. So that one I did not use a lot of gesso, so you can see it, but there's still texture on top of it. I'm going to keep trimming it and playing with it and deciding if I want to use it lengthways this way and frame both sides of the layout. And I think that would work. I like that, but as I've played with this a little bit more and then started to move those pieces, I think they work better horizontally. My photo is portrait, and I think the horizontal really makes the layout flow better. So I'm going to go with the horizontal here, and I want another strip at the bottom. So I decided to use this middle section of the background that I created because it has a little bit more of that darker black pattern paper peeking through. And I think it creates a nice balance from the top with the black and white photo and the black that's in the pattern paper above. Now I just grab a straight edge to just pencil in some straight lines, just as a guide, because I'm going to send this through my typewriter and I'm going to create some bullets. It's connected by, so I'll put adopted or adoption, family, Aunt Denise, love, just things that just make me think of when I look at this photo. So what I've done now is I've erased those pencil lines, added some straight stitching under each one, and then used those same Gelato colors that I had put on my background and go ahead and apply the water brush to that to get a nice soft look to those lines. And I use a baby wipe and the water to wipe off my brush before I go into another color, especially from going to the green and the pink. I don't want to create a totally different color. So once that is done, now I can start adhering and putting everything into place. I use my tape runner to apply everything, but I will use a liquid glue to secure those letters better because I think some of them will fall off. So now I can trim off the edge and flip this over and go ahead and start adding some more embellishments here. I was going to use a heart die cut and die cut from the background that I created, but then I remembered these really pretty acrylic shiny hearts from Pink Paisley that are in the March kits. So I just adhered that over the pattern paper, the sections that I like, to get a little bit of the pink and a little bit of that green and the gray, and then just trimmed around that. So I did 2 more hearts like that. So I'm going to dot those around at the bottom. But before I do that, I want to add some more stamping, and I'm going to use that same recorded phrase stamp. And I just used an extra piece here to just mask off from my photo. I want it to look like it's just a continuation of the stamping. And again, it's really repeating the same pattern that I created on that background piece. And since my title is connected by, I pulled out the positive plus sign and the negative plus sign stamp from the March kits. I stamped in a dark gray and the black. And now I want to create the bullets for my journaling. So I used the heart stamp that has the positive and the negative, and I use the same gray and the black ink. And the layout is pretty much done, and it's fine as is, but I decided I wanted to add another color to just kind of break up so much pink that you see. You see a little bit of the green or the teal, but I wanted to mostly break up the pink. So I bring in some yellow embellishments like the washi tape at the top, the flower at the bottom, and then the sticker, the banner sticker that I tucked under. What's nice about the textured background is I could kind of push up on it a little bit to tuck that sticker in there. And then I just thread it with some plain twine, this little chipboard button from the kits, to just tuck under there as well. Now I can go ahead and use my liquid glue to get all those hearts in place. I want to add a little bit more layered look at the bottom. So I just kind of tuck that little tag in there. And once I have that tag adhered, I just want to add a date stamp to this, and that'll complete the layout. I really think the look of the layered pattern papers and the vellum with the gesso, Gillettos, and the stitching just adds really some nice texture. And I like being able to cut it up and use it however I want on my layout. Thank you so much for joining me.